The most expensive steak in the world melts in your mouth before you finish chewing it. The cheapest cut on the animal makes the best braise on earth. And the origin story of the dish that defines Texas barbecue starts with a muscle nobody wanted. Here's every cut of beef explained. The chuck. The cow's shoulder. The chuck is the biggest primal on the animal, sits right behind the neck, covers the entire shoulder, and makes up about 26% of the carcass. Every single one of those muscles works constantly. The shoulder pivots every time the cow takes a step, swings its head, and when the cow reaches down to graze. Old school butchers called it the tough section and dumped most of it straight into ground beef. Didn't even think twice. But here's the reversal. That toughness is exactly what makes chuck the best braise on earth, because the shoulder is loaded with collagen, and collagen, given enough time and heat, transforms into gelatin. That gelatin thickens your sauce, silkens every bite, and creates the kind of depth you get in a proper pot roast that a $60 steakhouse cut simply cannot replicate. 3 hours in a Dutch oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit with some broth, and you've made something genuinely great. From the chuck you get chuck roast, chuck eye steak, Denver steak, shoulder clawed, and the flat iron. The flat iron is the real story here. In 2002, researchers at the University of Nebraska and University of Florida spent 2 years testing 5,600 different beef muscles to find new commercially viable cuts. Deep inside the shoulder blade, they found a muscle with almost no connective tissue running through it. It turned out to be the second most tender muscle on the entire cow, beaten only by the tenderloin. Before 2002, butchers were grinding it into hamburger. The brisket, the cow's chest. Hanging below the chuck is the brisket, the chest of the animal, and it might be the most extreme example of cooking transforming a cut. This muscle supports around 60% of the cow's standing body weight, all day, every day. It is dense, tough, and absolutely packed with collagen and connective tissue. Try to grill a brisket like a steak and you'll get something that fights back. It will hurt your jaw, you will lose. But low and slow flips the entire equation. Texas pit masters smoke brisket for 12 to 16 hours at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, holding the internal temperature right in that 195 to 205 degree window until every strand of collagen has fully converted to gelatin. That's what creates the pink smoke ring. That's what creates the buttery, pull-apart texture. That's what makes Central Texas barbecue worth making a trip for. The brisket splits into two distinct muscles, the flat and the point. The flat is leaner and the point is fattier. The point develops that dark crust on top, also known as burnt ends, which somehow became their own dish. Corned beef and pastrami both start here too, cured for days in salt and spice before the slow cook. Raw brisket runs around $5 a pound. Sliced and sold, it can go for $25. The transformation is genuinely wild. The rib, behind the chuck, along the upper back. Behind the chuck and running along the upper back is the rib primal, and this is where the steakhouse world lives. The rib makes up only about 9% of the carcass, but those muscles barely work. They sit along the upper back, don't carry weight, and don't really do much of anything. So the meat stays naturally tender, the fat marbles through evenly, and it renders beautifully when seared hot. From this section you get prime rib roast, ribeye steak, cowboy ribeye, tomahawk ribeye, and back ribs. The tomahawk is a ribeye with the full rib bone left attached, sometimes 18 inches long. That bone adds exactly 0 flavor to the meat, but it photographs perfectly, and steakhouses charge $90 to $150 for the privilege. You're essentially paying for the bone and the moment. Inside every ribeye is a smaller muscle called the spinalis dorsi, the rib cap. It wraps around the outside of the eye, and it has the richest marbling of any muscle on the cow. Serious steak people save it for last. But the rib primal also sets up the biggest argument in the beef world, the wagyu question. Wagyu literally just means Japanese cow, but the real story is a lot more complicated. Only 4 breeds qualify as authentic Japanese wagyu: black, brown, polled, and shorthorn. The black breed accounts for around 90% of all wagyu sold globally. Japanese wagyu is graded on a marbling scale called BMS, from 1 to 12. Grade A5 wagyu requires BMS 8 or higher. For comparison, USDA Prime, the top grade American beef can reach, tops out around BMS 4 or 5, so the entry level of A5 already carries roughly double the marbling of America's best. The cattle are raised 28 to 36 months, nearly twice as long as standard cattle, on diets that sometimes include beer mash and sake byproducts. And the fat in wagyu has a melting point near 77 degrees Fahrenheit, below human body temperature. It starts to melt before you've finished chewing. Kobe beef is wagyu from one specific region, Hyogo Prefecture, and it makes up less than 0.06% of Japan's total beef production. Real A5 runs $200 to $400 a pound. Rib cap pieces hit $300 easily. Now here's the part steakhouse menus won't mention. The word wagyu has no legal protection in the United States. Any American rancher can crossbreed a wagyu bull with an Angus cow, call the offspring American wagyu, and nobody can touch them for it. You have no way of knowing what you're actually getting without doing real homework on the producer. And even if you're eating the genuine article, is real A5 worth it for most people? Honestly, probably not. A USDA prime ribeye gives you more actual beef flavor than A5. At that fat level, 2 ounces is filling. You're not eating a steak, you're eating a rich, buttery experience that tastes incredible for the first 4 bites and then starts to feel like too much. It's just different, and priced at a level that makes it feel profound. The short loin, the most expensive primal. Directly behind the rib sits the short loin, only 8% of the carcass, but the highest concentration of premium cuts anywhere on the animal. These muscles do almost nothing. They sit along the lower spine, never carry weight, and stay exceptionally tender. From this one section you get the New York strip, tenderloin, filet mignon, T-bone, and porterhouse. The tenderloin is the most scientifically tender muscle on the cow, measured by actual shear force testing in beef research labs. Each animal produces only 4 to 6 pounds of it. That scarcity is why filet mignon never gets cheap. The center cut of the tenderloin becomes Chateaubriand, the grand roast of fine dining. T-bone and porterhouse are essentially 2 cuts sold together, a strip steak on one side of the bone, a piece of tenderloin on the other. The difference is simple. Porterhouse has a larger tenderloin section, at least 1.25 inches wide by USDA rule. T-bone has a smaller one. Same bone, different proportions. The sirloin, leaner, beefier, underrated. Just behind the short loin sits the sirloin, another 9% of the carcass. These muscles actually work. They help power the back legs, so the meat is leaner, chewier, and noticeably more affordable than what's directly in front of it. From the sirloin you get top sirloin steak, bottom sirloin, ball tip, and tri-tip. Tri-tip became a legend in Santa Maria, California in the 1950s, stayed almost entirely unknown outside the West Coast for decades, and only really went national when food television picked it up in the 2010s. It's a triangular roast with deep beefy flavor, and it's still underpriced relative to what it delivers. Then there's picanha, the cap of the sirloin, a cut Brazilians have treated as the star of the grill for generations. Sliced thick with a fat cap on, threaded onto long skewers, and carved tableside at churrascarias. It costs a fraction of a ribeye at the same restaurant and, depending on who you ask, delivers more satisfaction per dollar than almost anything else on the menu. While steakhouse culture obsesses over the short loin, Brazilians turn the cut directly behind it into their national dish. And they're not wrong. The plate, below the rib, the front belly. Below the rib and in front of the flank is the plate. And it's one of the most flavorful parts of the cow, despite being largely overlooked in American butcher cases. From the plate, short ribs, skirt steak, hanger steak, and a significant portion of the ground beef that ends up in American burgers. Short ribs need the same slow treatment as brisket. Braise them for 3 hours in red wine, and the collagen converts into thick, rich gravy that coats every fiber. Sold flanken style, they're sliced thin across the bone. That's Korean galbi. English cut, they're sliced parallel to the bone for the classic big braise. Skirt steak comes from the diaphragm muscle. It's the original fajita cut, marinated briefly, hit on a screaming hot grill for 2 minutes per side, sliced thin against the grain. It has more flavor per bite than most premium steaks at a fraction of the cost. And then there's hanger steak, 1 per cow. Old school butchers used to take it home rather than put it in the case, which is why French chefs still call it onglet, or the butcher's tenderloin. Deeply flavorful, slightly coarser, and still undervalued by most supermarkets. The flank, the lower belly of the cow. Behind the plate and below the sirloin is the flank, just 3% of the cow. Long muscle fibers, all running in one clear direction. That's the signature of flank steak. And also, it's one rule: slice with the grain, and it turns into chewy rubber. Slice against it, and you get clean, lean bites that work perfectly in stir-fries, fajitas, and London broil. Flank used to be one of the cheapest cuts at the counter. Then the fitness and lean protein movement discovered it, and the price followed. The round, the hindquarter of the cow. The round is the entire hindquarter, the rear legs and rump. And it's the second biggest primal on the cow, at about 22% of the carcass. These muscles work constantly. The meat is lean, low in fat, and tough when cooked fast. The top round, bottom round, eye of round, rump roast, and sirloin tip all come from here. The approach is either low and slow to medium rare, then sliced paper thin, or ground into lean beef for lower fat burgers. Most deli roast beef in America comes from the round, cooked rare, sliced thin enough that the toughness becomes irrelevant. It's one of those cuts where the method is everything: the shank, or the legs of the cow. The shank is the lower leg meat, front and rear, and it's the toughest cut on the entire animal, dense with tendons and connective tissue. Don't even think about the grill, but cross-cut shank, with the marrow bone left in the middle, is the foundation of osso buco, the northern Italian classic where the disc braises in white wine and broth for a couple of hours. The marrow melts into the sauce. The meat slides off the bone without effort. Something that would be inedible cooked any other way becomes one of the most celebrated dishes in Italian cooking. Time and heat transforms every cut of beef. One animal, 10 completely different cooking methods. And the difference between a pot of shoe leather and the best thing you've ever eaten is knowing which part you're holding. Check out the next video on screen now to see more food breakdowns like this one.